I am an African.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Africa for Dummies podcast. Thank you guys for joining us. Today we have a very special episode. We are, as you know, Africa Freedom Day is coming up soon, and we would like to reminisce on some of the things that we did to celebrate Africa Freedom Day in respect of Africa Freedom Day, and just see the importance of such a day and what it means uh, to us individually. Today we have Zengi as usual. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Yeah.
So if anyone is listening to us, it'll be Africa Freedom Day by now. So happy Africa Freedom Day to all those listening.
Mhm. And we have our director of DOP. What does DOP stand for? Director of Photography, right? Yeah. The DOP, he was with us in the trenches when we did some of the documentaries that a lot of people have loved and sent their praises of. A large part of it would not even a large, most of it would not have been done without this guest, Mr. Muiza N. How are you doing, sir?
Hello. Good to be here, man. Yeah, I'm here to speak about the work we did filming our African leaders, and yeah, what an exciting time that was.
True. So I guess to begin this conversation, I don't really see people. Some people do people celebrate Africa Freedom Day? What does Africa Freedom Day mean to you guys? So let's start with you, Uncle Zengi. What does Africa Freedom Day mean to you?
What about this uncle? First of all, this
Oh,
uncle.
sorry. But it's Zambian habits, man. They die hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what does it mean to me? I mean, to me, it's more like, what can I say? I'll give you the diplomatic answer and then the the real answer. Diplomatically, it's meant to mean like solidarity, the whole idea of all people of African descent having solidarity, sticking up for each other, brothers keeper, the whole spiel about unity, which I believe. The reason I'm saying spiel is because in reality, it's kind of disappointing. Like the state of Africa right now is not great to put it lightly. So yeah, it's quite disappointing. There's more conflict than ever, more coups than ever. But on a personal level, Africa Freedom Day is supposed to be a moment of pride. It's supposed to be something about solidarity, but you're constantly thinking of, okay, what have we achieved? Then it makes you very, yeah. Yeah, it kind of sours it down. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So I guess for you, it's the time to reflect on. Is there anything that you reflect on that's, or I think you mentioned the unity is, no. You didn't. You said the unity is not impressive, right? At the moment. So
yeah, it's like reflecting. Yeah, it's like the aspirations. Everyone kind of agrees on the aspirations. Yeah, the basic aspirations, but at the same time, it's kind of disappointing when you actually look at the stats and the reality of Africa right now.
Sure. Actually, speaking of coups, there was one that failed just quite recently, if I'm not mistaken, right? In DRC. Yeah. And Musa, what do you think like Africa Freedom Day means to you? Do you like do anything to celebrate or is it just another another day? Should it be a day when we stop and like reflect or
You know what? I actually feel like for many of us it's just another day. Because I don't feel like many Africans actually even recognize Africa Freedom Day. Like it's not something we widely celebrate or recognize. it's only down to like a certain number of people that actually go, you know what, it's actually Africa Freedom Day, which is what Zenga is talking about. Like it's supposed to be a day when we sort of come together and have some sort of pride and celebration about our continent. But I don't feel like that's the case. We're very, very divided at the moment. The fact that you need so many visas just to travel across the continent is also another thing. So I don't think unity
is something
that's actually a good point, because like there was a CEO forum in Rwanda a few days ago. Mind you, this is a few days ago before the 25th of May 2024. There's a CEO forum, and the richest man in Africa, I think he still is the richest man, Aliko Dangote, was like, I need 35 visas to travel in Africa. And he was talking to this other French guy, I don't know what institute he was representing. And he was like, you need less visas to travel in Africa than me, Africa's richest man. So that was like, that's kind of crazy, because even when you have the capacity to improve people's lives, you have the money for it, you still need, you know what I mean? You still need visas just to go like to regional countries, not even like beyond the continent. So yeah, so the whole Africa solidarity thing is kind of like, okay. And then in reality, what happens? You know?
Oh, that's a good point. That's a
Yeah.
good
How
point.
about you? What does Africa freedom mean? Does your family does your family wear African clothes and, you know, like, oh, Wakanda?
Nah, I don't know. Like I think I think it's kind of like a mix of actually I think I relate more to Moises' answer, because even me personally, outside of like the uni where I used to do my bachelor's at, I think we used to do something for Africa Freedom to like celebrate different cultures, different food, different whatever, and also try to bring in some speakers to have those like conversations. But yeah, I think when you look at it, it's still like, you know, long way from where, as you mentioned, from where we intended to be at. You know, situation gets a bit more worrying every I guess you can, like, in theory, it's like kind of like a moment to kind of be like celebrate your Africanness, I guess. But
Whatever
then
that
when
means.
it's actually whatever that means. But in practice, it's, you know, we still kind of are worried about a lot of other things that happen.
Yeah, I mean, like there's all of this stuff, like the institutional stuff that's there, policies, frameworks, pronouncements. But for me, it's more about the reality. It's just like, is there like, you know how like in the European Union, because the idea, like, if we go back to the history of what the African Union was supposed to be, which I'll go through just now, it's supposed to be kind of like the European Union, one country, but the idea is like supposed to be European Union. And you see the luxury that, say, people with European passports have to go, like, you know, even you're in Germany, you can go anywhere in Europe that you want with
thanks for leaking my location. But like, can like just to kind of like play devil's advocate for a little bit, isn't it easier to do something like that in Europe, where they have fewer countries, and even when you look at like the cultural differences amongst those said countries are not as diverse as, say, like in Africa, where like if you just look at one country like Zambia, for example, even within Zambia, when you go to one province, there's different cultures. Even within you can still find some differences just amongst those like cultures. So like, are we asking for too much in terms of like this whole Africa block, especially considering that there's a ton of regional blocks within Africa that are already which are already, some are, I guess, functioning in a way, but like which aren't really, well, people don't really like I don't want to say not recognize them, but like I guess aren't doing.
The effects.
Yeah, not really. People are not really seeing the large effects from these regional blogs, and now we want to kind of go and build an entire blog. Like, isn't that kind of like working backwards, or I don't know? But yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's look at the history of this African Union. So there was the Organization for African Unity, OAU. Right now, there's African Union. So the OAU became the African Union in 2002. It was like a reboot, sort of. That was on the 25th of May, 1963. So Africa Freedom Day since has been on the 25th of May every year. And there was like two groups. There was one group called Casablanca, which was like, oh, let's make the United States of Africa one solid country, like the USA. Like, one phone, the USA has one phone code, I think, right? Yeah. One phone code and like one passport, one president, like a proper state, the United States of Africa. And in this group was like Kwame Nkrumah, there were others from Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser, the first Republican president of Egypt, in Algeria also, Guinea, Sekou Touré, these type of people, Gaddafi. So these guys were, Africa should be one country. And then there was the Monrovia group, which is the capital of Liberia. And they were more for a looser, like a conference of independent African states, which ultimately most people say won, because the African Organization of African Unity and the AU just became like this organization of different countries, intergovernmental organization. Now the AU was like an attempt to make it more like the European Union, where like you have commissions, you have like agricultural policies, but like as you said, Africa is huge. There's like the EU has 27, AU has 55. Unless you're Morocco and you don't recognize, never mind. So yeah, it's much better. And then the thing that Africa has that the EU doesn't have is like they also have sub-regional organizations, the SADC for the South, EAC, East African Community for the East, ECOWAS for the West, you know what I mean? So you have all of these things.
Countries, like one country can be in multiple. I think Congo is in probably like Congo, 2 or 3,
Congo
right?
is in the Central African one, the East African one, and the Southern one. And Tanzania is in the Southern one and the Eastern one. So even when you say, okay, East African Community have one currency, Tanzania is like, well, I've got other commitments. And, so like all of this stuff is it's much more complex on the African continent. And as you said, there's like, I think there was that map where it was like, okay, if Africa didn't have any country, if all the tribes were their own country, there were like 2,000 states. So yeah, the AU and the whole idea of Pan-Africanism, to be honest, for me, I think Pan-Africanism has just become like a clickbait type of, like it's so popular, like anyone can just say they're Pan-Africanists, and you can just go with it. But yeah, so that's just the gist of Africa Freedom Day and the history around Africa Freedom Day.
Very negative views from this panel. Yeah. Can we get something positive? Please.
Well, what good has come out of this actually?
What
good has come out of
the AU and all of what we've mentioned?
Yeah, I think that's your field, bro. So
they're going to put me in trouble.
Yeah.
I think good. To me, at least in my lifetime, like the representation of good from the AU and this whole Pan-African thing is if anyone traveled during COVID across Africa or out of Africa, they had to file in something called Panabios, which was like this registry for COVID measurements and registrations that was Africa-wide. So that's the first time I've interacted with something that's like Africa-wide, like all the countries in Africa. So that's the first time I've seen like a system that's Africa-wide that rationalizes and recognizes all institutes that have done your COVID test. I was like, oh, okay, this is new. But should it take a full-on pandemic for you to have an Africa-wide thing? I don't know. But the biggest achievement is probably just liberation, like the end of apartheid, the end of colonialism. That's undoubtedly the biggest achievement ever since the whole Institute of the African Union and /OAU has ever done. There's a lot of institutes, but there's always sort of like a shortfall. And the main thing is also funding. Like the AU doesn't have a lot of funding. A lot of it is funded by, the EU,
Oh wow.
some
Okay.
Scandinavian countries.
Okay.
I can't say the figure, I don't know the figure, but a good chunk of it. So there's a push for the AU. The AU Commission constantly asks for member states to pay more.
Contribute. Yeah.
Contribute more. Some countries don't. Some countries take long to pay, like the AU in the AU itself. So yeah,
That's
you have to
quite interesting.
follow the money sometimes. Although look, the intentions are African. It's an African organization, but you still have to. You can't ignore where the money is coming from, and ultimately it's constrained. It's very constrained, and states will sometimes do what they want to do. They don't want to. You have to, if you're going to be African Union, and if you're going to be like the EU, there's parts of your sovereignty that you have to concede. And if President Muiza has to like answer to some technocratic commissioner guy in Addis Ababa, like some of his interests would be,
Yeah.
will be shelved off. So yeah, it's quite complex. But yeah, so for me, the only thing in my lifetime that I have seen, like manifestation of the AU, is the universal COVID registration thing, which I was quite impressed by. But everything else, aside from liberation, quite disappointing, or like lots of shortcomings. But due to understand reasons, honestly.
Yeah. My personal view is that if we can just first start with the regional blocks. You already have the regional blocks there. Try to get them to work, and then try to go to this bigger, sort of this larger level of governance, because I think it's going to get more complex, and you have like a whole new world of more challenges. And I understand the dream of it is amazing, to be able to travel within Africa without getting a passport, all these sorts of promises. But I think like we need to be careful when it comes to like, reality and what we want to happen and all such.
Yeah, because like let's say like you see the levels of xenophobia in South Africa, and that's even a topic, immigration in this election. Like would South Africans agree to having Zimbabweans only come with IDs into South Africa? Like that's already
a point of
let's be honest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's be honest. Like would Zambians, to be fair, would Zambians agree to have Congolese coming just with an ID?
You really decided to come and say today is going to be polarizing. So, anyways, no, you certainly do make some good points, because I mean, as much as I said, like as much as like people want this to happen, like we all want this to happen, but it seems like whenever you come up with some sort of like, hey, before we do this, like, can we try to fix this first? It seems like you're anti, African unity and all this sort of thing. And but it kind of reminds me of a quote that I know you don't like this guy, but I think this is like one thing that he definitely got right, which was Milton Friedman. He said,
that guy.
Yeah, he said when a company fails, it shuts down. When a government fails, it becomes bigger. And that
becomes bigger.
Yeah. It expands.
Oh, okay.
And I think like you can kind of see that with like
so why does it become bigger?
Well, the idea is essentially that when it's a company, you're using your own money. So when you lose that money, it's done. But what a government does when it fails at a program or something, simply increases taxes and expands.
To get more money.
Exactly. So that's the thinking on a very layman view. But anyways, kind of going off on a tangent here, but trying to stay positive.
Yeah.
Are there any African leaders or African figures that you people look up to? Off the top of my head, I can list a number of Western people that everybody looks up to. Michael Jordan, Martin Luther King. I was about to say Museveni. Anyways, what? Who else?
Hey, maybe someone looks up to him. Who knows?
Hey, who knows, bro? Who else? No, I actually don't know leaders, bro. But anyway,
Who is your African idol?
precisely. No, I wouldn't say idol, but somebody that you look up to be like, okay, this guy.
It doesn't have to be a president. Hey, it could be anyone.
Yeah, it could be anyone. Yeah.
And not your parents.
My mother and father.
Right.
Yeah.
How about you, Mwiza? Who like on the African scene?
You know what's crazy? We have so many brilliant African people in the world, but most of them sort of like claim their Western sides more.
Right.
If you have my drift, like let's say we have so many, like some of the world's best football players, some of the world's best actors, some of the world's best musicians are primarily African. But I mean, they always claim to be French or British.
I feel like you're talking about Mbeki or something. Like just give us a
That's
name.
one of the biggest ones. That's one of the biggest ones. But an African person I look up to. And there's so many. I mean, we have so many great African artists, like Burna Boy.
Yeah.
He's pretty vocal about his view on Africa, calls himself the African giant. We have
even Rema.
Rema.
Really? No, hold
I mean,
up.
we even have great leaders.
I respect Rema. I
Rema.
respect Rema a lot, and he's done a lot for the African. But like, is he somebody that we? Anyways, yeah, maybe musically, yeah, definitely. Sorry.
Yeah, we're talking about every field.
Okay, every field. Okay, sorry.
Leaders. I think I can mention a good number of great African leaders.
Such as?
Okay.
I mean, we have, well, is this like people that are still alive, or
don't worry, we can edit out if you say so.
I mean we have Thomas Sankara.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, true, decent.
Patrice Lumumba.
Decent. Yeah, good choices, man. Good choices.
Edgar Lungu.
Oh.
Edgar.
Come on.
You did that on purpose, bro. You did that on purpose.
We have so many great leaders and people that we can look up.
That is perfectly fine, but I did not expect him to go in that route, bro. I'm sorry.
What's wrong with Edgar?
No. It's because
no. He's given us his opinion. He's got his opinion.
No, I'm the reason why I laughed. I just want everyone, before someone stones me when I go back. Like listen, the reason why I said that I laughed is because he started out with old figures, Thomas Sankara,
okay,
Patrice Lumumba, and then like he threw a curveball, bro. I did not expect it. I didn't expect Edgar Lungu, bro. Sorry about that. Definitely.
Okay, so for our listeners, Edgar Lungu is the 6th president of Zambia. Anyway, who do I think is great? Like, look, I like Burna Boy and everything. The only reason I like Burna Boy is because he made African music cool and mainstream. Because before that, it was kind of like when Oliver Twist comes on when Oliver Twist comes on, all the Africans just take over and all the white people just leave. But now you can listen to Asake and Rema and all the white people and non-Africans.
Amapiano is also done.
Be like, oh, Amapiano. Yeah. So
do you think, can I ask you a question? Like, I have a theory about that. Do you think that a large part of it is because of the work that Africans in the diaspora have done in terms of like integrating and kind of introducing people to more African culture? Because like that's kind of a theory that I have, like in terms of like why Afro beats and like Amapiano is now like getting this pushback. Because there's actually a thing I was hearing about. I know this is a tangent, but I heard this from someone who said that music, like American record labels are funding their American artists less and less now and finding more of Afrobeat artists because number one, they're way bigger because when they're touring, it's a global tour and not just like a local thing. And then this is particularly with referring to the rap scene in the US, but like usually when a rappers like either their career doesn't do as well as they expected, but also like there are things that happen sometimes. Artists get arrested or die and this sort of a thing. So it's kind of like a risky investment for record labels, and they're actually putting more money into like the Burna Boy, the Remas, the Asake, like those type of guys.
I feel like Africans themselves are. I think maybe our record labels are just more exposed and more connected. I don't think it's solely a diaspora effort, because if it was like, I mean, depends what you mean by diaspora. Because you could talk about ancestral diaspora, or because Stormzy technically is in the African diaspora, but he's like British, you know. Burna Boy is from Nigeria. And like those who listen to Burna Boy primarily are from Africa. Whereas Burna Boy, you know, like is like Black British. So, you know, the Black British community made him who he is. So I don't know. I don't know how to.
I think personally, I think it's down to social media and what social media has done for the culture, to be fair. Because I mean, African music is now more widespread because of things like TikTok. I mean, you can go on your For You page and there's a new challenge. So everyone's getting exposed to it. So that's probably what's pushing it, to be fair. That's what the culture.
And it's probably multiple reasons and not just one. I'm sure like one contributes more than other, but I can hear.
Yeah, but you know, even there's a contention when we go back to talking about African solidarity. The way South Africans get pissed when Amapiano is made into Nigerians take Amapiano and then they try and do the Afrobeat remix, and then Nigerians claiming Amapiano. There's all that rivalry. There's still that rivalry that goes on there. I'm not going to comment on whether or not Nigerians should remix Amapiano.
No, because I think artistry collaboration, right? Like a lot of artists took from different regions, different places, you know what I mean? So I think, although I do think that for the large majority, I think the Amapiano Afrobeat like thing is more of like a playful division type of thing, where it's just like kind of like the jollof rice situation. Although I do think that there is
guys, Nathan is saying this on behalf of himself.
No.
That means we won't claim Nathan's statement on jollof rice.
I'm just saying that it's like a playful sort of a beef. It's not really like I think the only thing where it gets to be like, I think it's when people attach Amapiano to the Nigerians. That's when people are like, whoa, bro, like that's a bit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Without but I think it's good. Like I like the music that's coming out of it. It's like you can't stop collaboration. It's art.
Although to be honest, I don't like Burna Boy's take on Shwalabam. He shouldn't have done it. But anyway,
what did you say?
Burna Boy's like take on. I don't know if you heard it.
No, we can cut this out if you like, but.
He did his own thing on Shwalabam, and
what's Shwalabam?
I don't like it. You don't know the song, the challenge?
No, I don't know.
The one with like the shove. Never mind.
So Zenge, who are African leaders that we look
up to? For me, I think the one that stands out the most is Thabo Mbeki. I've got a few who I think I can get, like, you know, they're nice, inspiring people. But the one that I say mostly I think about is Thabo Mbeki. Because Thabo Mbeki, he was he was not necessarily the generation of like Mandela and those guys, but he was young and he was involved in that. He lived in Zambia for what, 10 years? And then he moved to London and he was an activist when it wasn't cool to support apartheid. I mean, sorry, to be anti-apartheid. activist. But most importantly, it's his vision for like 21st century Africa. He's one of the architects behind the AU. The idea, because the OAU was like, some people even accused it of being like a dictators club. Like, okay, you guys are just here, big leaders with money and poor people from your countries. And then whenever like there's a problem, you're like, oh, get out of my way. Don't question me about my country, even though you're killing like 300 people. So he brought like democracy into Pan-Africanism. Because before that, it was just like Pan-Africanism is just Black people kicking out colonialists. It's like the clickbait Pan-Africanism. African leader shuts down white journalist, that type of Pan-Africanism. Whereas his was like, okay, yes, solidarity, yes, Pan-Africanism, but are you running your house properly? Like, are you killing your people? Are your elections in check? Like, just, the stuff that leaders would be quite uncomfortable to talk about. So that I credit him. I mean, of course, 20 or so years since the AU started, he's the reboot, because he was so his idea was African Renaissance, like renewal of the African ideals, an efficient, like functioning democratic African landscape. So yeah, there've been lots of shortfalls there, but yeah. So I think Tom Mbeki's version of Pan-Africanism is great. So yeah, that's for the political level. Yeah, that's why I can say a lot about.
Yeah, no, that's a good choice. I think you only mentioned Tom Mbeki earlier. Is he somebody that you like read about and like consistently just like, because like for me, when I think about somebody that like an inspirational figure, someone that you look up to, is like kind of like one of the things where you actually go back and look at like, whenever you're like in the time where you're not as motivated, but you kind of think about what that person has done, or maybe like it motivates you to reach a certain level.
Yeah.
So that's that's quite.
And even if we go historically, Thomas Sankara, Kaunda, those people. But for me, I'm trying to look at it sort of like what's contemporary to the 21st century. Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, why don't we now like discuss the first two documentaries that we did. So for those listening, we did a documentary on basically two angles of Africa. We spoke to a freedom fighter who was also a diplomat in the very trying times in African history, the Biafra War. And he was sort of like a fly on the wall during the independence movement of Zambia before that. And then we also interviewed a gentleman called Moboola, Pvt Moboola. He lived in a rural area. Moboola, yeah. On maybe just a bit far out to the west of the capital city of Zambia, Lusaka, in a village. And so I just quite remote. So it was quite a journey. So let's start with Nathan. Just like, could you run us through, because the first interview you did was with Pvt Moboola, the 99-year-old guy. So can you just tell me what in the pre-interview stages, what processes did you have to go through into getting this guy to talk to us, and like why him?
Initially, I think it was funny enough, it was ZNBC. Like when I was a kid, when I was younger, I think when I was in Zambia, there was somebody that did a documentary one time, and it was like that to be watching ZNBC.
By the way, ZNBC is the national station.
Sorry, yes.
Zambia.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so one time they were showing, I was just like watching ZNBC and they showed this video, and then like the caption is, I thought it was just like a regular old person that they were just like interviewing and stuff. But then like underneath it was like World War II veteran. So in my mind, I was like, huh? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like, how is the World War II veteran in Zambia, like all the way in Zambia? Like, what's that mean? And it led to some Googling, and I was like, whoa, like, wait, you mean to tell me like the Africans actually played a significant role in ending the Second World War, right? Because like anytime you hear about, the Second World War, like it's like that's something that's always remembered to this day, and for right reason, of course. And it's always like the soldiers that played the role in that are always respected, especially on Remembrance Day and all those sorts of things. You have to, if you turn on the TV, especially on Remembrance Day, it's like you have to know
You have
about these things. But in my mind, it's kind of like, wait, but you don't know that these people played a significant role in also ending it as well,
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, it would be really cool to kind of sit down and interview like one of these guys, because when I did the Googling in Zambia, there were actually a couple at the time. Unfortunately, one of them was very far away, and I think somewhere in the Eastern Province or something.
Yeah.
And it happened to be one one last one in Lusaka, which is the capital city of of Zambia. And so initially I called, obviously I have to give a shout out to my mom, because she's the one who like organized everything and like was in touch with people down there. And so when I contacted her, she was like, oh yeah, that's possible, just have to talk to. So of course, when it comes to military things, it's very, there's a lot of
You have to
there's a
visit the
lot of
military, right? There's a
yeah,
guy.
you have to yeah, you have to go there, go to the barracks, and you tell them like, oh, this is what we want to do, and they have to, go and discuss about it, and also ask the people that represent the family and all that sort of thing. Lucky for us, they were very, very nice and very welcoming, and they said, yeah, you can definitely pull through and do the interview as well. Yeah.
So like for me, what was striking was like the military would be so accessible. And I was just like, why? Like
yeah.
Yeah, the fact that you actually got in and managed to do that. I'm
Yeah.
also a bit shocked that they actually keep records of this. It's actually quite impressive that they actually keep
Oh
records of
yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and that there's actually someone that represents.
Yeah, sorry to cut you. I don't know if I included it in the documentary, but when you enter, they actually showed me this there's this like dedication wall where they have all the names of the fallen soldiers from Zambia that actually served in the Second World War. So it's actually pretty cool to see, yeah, to actually keep those like, records.
So now we're going to this place in Chiwuyunji, I think, a district in like rural, not far from Saka, but very rural. In my mind, what I was thinking of was like, I was thinking of someone who, I don't know, I expected him to be very smart, like very, like, I expected like, I expected maybe like a put together, like smart guy, very eloquent, very, I think in my mind I had like Private Ryan, those Pearl Harbor movies. I was just thinking of the black version of all
And
that.
instead, what did you get instead?
What did you get instead?
No, I mean,
I'm curious to see where this is going.
Yeah, what's a very
no. What I got
did you
instead
get?
was the military precision and stuff was in like the way his homestead was. I say homestead because it was like there was basically huts, but the other huts in the other village from civilians were very like shabby. They were not very organized. But his were like white lining on the like ringing the bottom of the like hut. Every hut, all the trees had like a white lining. Everything was like straightly done. The passages were clean. There was like some degree of order.
The place was very clean.
very, very clean. Yeah, so that I saw it in everything else, but his clothes were like, I mean, they're like worn down, they're like raggedy clothes. He wasn't like some venerated retired general. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't like a rich guy. Maybe for the village he was respected, yeah, but he wasn't someone you could say that, okay, this guy is a bona fide World War veteran, and you can feel it, you can feel you're in the presence of someone who the whole country, like, because they invite these guys every time.
But
Zambia,
crazy thing is he didn't care about anything else. Like he just cared about being a private.
Yeah.
And to him, everything else, I think I'm getting ahead of myself because I think that's the direction you're going. But to him, everything else was beneath the soldier, which is interesting. But go ahead, yeah.
Wait, so how about you, Mwiza? What did you think when we were like, yo, Mwiza, we're gonna interview a World War II veteran? What was that like? What was going into your mind? And also, as we were going there, what did you expect?
For me, it was very exciting actually, because I mean, it's not every day you get invited to come and film a World War II veteran. Honestly, so I was very excited about that. To be fair, my initial what I thought when I first got there, I mean, based off appearance, like Zingi is going into appearance and how he's held together. The guy is what, 90 odd years old?
99 when we met him.
Yeah, 99. Yeah.
About 99 years old. You have to cut him a break. I mean, he's probably limited. He probably doesn't even choose his own wardrobe at that stage,
Sure.
He needed quite a bit of assistance and stuff like that. And he's in his retirement years. So I mean, it doesn't have to be necessarily sharp, but overall very exciting. I was very excited to be there, and it's not every day these things happen.
I also share the same sentiment. It was very exciting as well, because it was just like you're actually going to be with, like, you're going to meet somebody who was there during those periods.
But for me, it's also like a new turf, because not only, like when you meet historical figures, you already know them and you kind of like, you have an idea, an opinion of them. But because no one talks about like African World War II veterans, I didn't really have like something to, there was no precedent, like, okay, this is what he's going to say, and this is not what he's going to say. Like, there's nothing I could predict. But slight tangent though, when we got there, and this one is Nathan's, I don't know what's, this one is a target at Nathan, because Nathan arrived, and this is an old African man. Nathan comes with all the props, the cameras and stuff in his face. He just says, "Oh, hi," and drops the camera. And we are in a hut, right? And then like 2 or 3 of his kids, and then I think one of his, yes, he had multiple wives. One of his wives is there, and he's sitting there. And then we're with the guy from the army, our link from the army, and we sit down first. Like, we talk. You have a drink. How are you doing? How are things going?
Very formal.
Yeah. Nathan with his German behavior came and said, "All right, time. What's your name? Sign here. Let's,"
It's the business. We don't have time.
Straight into business.
No, it's just like, how can I say? Maybe it's force of habit. I don't know. But also just like, I was looking at the weather, the time, because everyone told me like, we don't want to leave this place when it's dark, because like it was a very rural area, and also like so there was no roads and everything, and so like, that was also my concern. But also, it was also to get that contract signed so that in case anything happens, anything happens. However, I will have to add, his family is really, really nice people. Really welcoming. Yeah, really cool. And they were just like really like excited, because initially in my mind I thought we are going to just have like this one-on-one,
Yeah.
You know, just like him there, us, maybe the translator and the person who was helping us and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was it. But it's like the whole family lined up, and it was just like exciting to see that sort of a thing. You know, that was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so now like we're videoing the guy. I'm gonna go to the content of what he said later, after this question. But like I want to ask, like you guys will have the cameras and stuff. So what type of depiction did you?
Shout out to Muiza's camera, by the way. I think it's amazing. Do you still have it, by the way?
Yeah, I do indeed.
And as you've been saying.
Yeah, no. I was gonna say, what type of depiction did you want people to see? Like, what did you like in the angles? Were you trying to just like, okay, like it's a video of the guy, blah blah blah. But what type of depiction were you trying to convey in the angles and the images that you're portraying? Like, what kind of message?
If I think about that first.
Let's see a clear and true representation of the man. So, I mean, I think we had two angles on it. One to the side and one on facing.
Yeah.
Tried to get the lighting right. I think we got a very vivid image. The contrast was actually really good on the picture. So yeah, it didn't make him look weak. It didn't, face from the bottom. I mean, if you want to get into the technicalities of photography and whatever, based on that question. But yeah, I think we got a very true, it was a very true depiction of the man and the point at which he was at that stage of his life. Which I think we should be happy about, because I mean, not many people actually. I mean, how many other Zambians do you know that have actually gone and interviewed this man in his own home? Gotten to listen to what he has to say. So yeah, we should be very happy and proud that we actually got those shots before.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's also something I'm very proud of. But like, I think there was also a moment where there was a bit of like expectation and reality were sort of like meeting, because I think like when you're doing like when you do anything in terms of like photography or whatever, I think like everything you're learning is like in this controlled environment where it's like, oh, this. But the moment we set foot on that place, everything that could go wrong went wrong. So like it just started raining, and as you can imagine, it's a hut, so like they have the thin iron sheets.
Yeah.
So there's that part. Yeah, exactly. There's that part in the documentary where it's like you can hear the noise. Luckily it was only there for a little bit. But another thing that we didn't expect was how conversation with him, because as you can imagine, he's really old. So like when you would ask him a question, he was going to answer something else, but then like moments later, he was going to then answer the question that you initially asked him.
Yeah.
So like that was also like something that exactly, that was something that I completely didn't like expect as well, because I was expecting like a controlled environment, him, us, camera, that's it, but like so many things, phones going off, that sort of a thing, so it was just like that element that I guess we didn't expect. But also, as Misa said, like I think when the lighting was like good, we got like some really great angles of him, and for me, I really wanted to just understand that like complexity in terms of like you're going to fight a war that you never took part in, that you never like, it was never like your decision or anything like that. And just as also again, as much as I said, like just to understand like what it was like basically.
Yeah, I mean, you left it on a good note actually. Now we can talk about what he actually said. I mean, to me, because I was asking the questions, my fear was like, I can't treat this guy like the other
Oh
guests
yeah,
we have
that's
on our
true. That's true.
podcast. You know, I can't just be
Before
like,
sorry.
I'm like,
Zengi, sorry.
there we go.
Zengi, in this interview, and also I don't know if we're going to talk about the
Yeah,
honorable
that's where we're
mention
going once we're done
interview.
with the freedom fight.
Yes, you have. I don't know why, but Zengi, you have this. I think it's a Zambian thing because of respect. Like respect is a big thing. So Zengi is like, I don't know. Should I ask? I'm just like, bro, ask him. The battery is dying, boys. The battery is dying.
You have to let the guy speak. I can't interrupt.
Yeah. You're saying anyway.
Yeah, no, it was the reason I just couldn't, because as you said, that's why it was hard to get an answer from him, because I couldn't just be like, okay, but you haven't answered the question. What's, you know, like, why haven't you answered this question? And the most, like, I think the most shocking thing that he said was the thing about PTSD, when we recognize that this is PTSD. What did he say again? We asked him, what does he miss the most about the war? And before I say this, the funny thing is that the war is like the highlight of his life. He's 99 years old, and he was in this battle in Kenya. I think he was at a base in Kenya fighting Italians who were encroaching. They were in Somalia, they were in Ethiopia, as you know. So the Italians were on the opposite side, and the British, he was fighting on behalf of Northern Rhodesia, which was the British. And so we asked him, like, what do you miss most about the war? And he said, kill people. He said it in Nyanja, which is the local language in Lusaka province of Zambia. So he's like, to kill people. And then even Nathan was like a bit shocked as well. I didn't see Muisa because he was like panning around. But, so I was like, let me ask him again. What did you miss about the war? And I was like, he said it instinctively, like, to kill people. I was like, what the, like, what?
Did you cut that part out? That's a good.
I think he did. I think it's still there.
Okay.
But yeah. So it was so strange for me. But I think at that point, and then someone had to ask him again, and then he said, "Oh no, I enjoyed the camaraderie and stuff like that." So I was like, "You just said to kill people twice," and then now, so to me, it's like, okay, I bet this is PTSD, like, and I'm sure the Zambian army at that time, I don't know about now, definitely didn't have anything to do with PTSD. Not only because he was African, but not only because he was Zambian. I mean, he was not Zambian; he was British, a British subject. Like Black British at that time. So PTSD is like, forget about PTSD in the UK at that time, but PTSD in the colonies.
Yeah, the thing is, he sounded like somebody who was also ready to be called up by the British officers. Like, if they called them up right now, like, we're going to war, he was like ready to suit up and like go. But like I think for me, the most interesting part was when we asked him about Kaunda. So Kenneth Kaunda was the first president of Zambia, and I think I don't know if it's right to say leader of the movement for independence in Zambia. And I think when we asked him, like, oh, what did you think about Kenneth Kaunda and those guys? And he seemed to rubbish them.
Yeah,
he was like, man,
they're just people.
They're just people.
Like, I didn't want to do with them. Like,
there's nothing special about them.
Interesting for me. Yeah, that was extremely interesting to me. Like, the fact that for him, it was just like
it shows you and he kept on mentioning General Bassett, who was like his
Bassett. I don't know. I searched for that name.
Yeah, we can't verify who that general is.
Yeah,
but sort of like his platoon commander or something. And he had such reverence for the British commander, such respect for him. Like, he spoke of him and his voice, like his voice would amplify. But when he talks about Kaunda, it's a whole different story. The independence, like, because when you grow up, like, in an African household, the independence leaders are spoken of almost in a godly manner. Like, oh, Kaunda's time. He's like, Kaunda can't do such a thing. Nkrumah
Yeah.
can't do such a thing. How dare? But like these guys who lived in their time, they're the age mates, they're like, okay, this guy's just some other guy. So to me, it was like, okay, first of all, we've discovered PTSD. Secondly, we've also discovered an angle that we never like. These guys were so it's like these guys were the Britain's guys to fight the war. And so in the independence nationalists, like intellectuals, were more like they're like, you guys are traitors. You're fighting in a war, yet you're not going to get anything from it. It's like African Americans who fought in World War II and came back to racism. So that's why we asked him, it's like, when you came back, what did you get? Because I know before there were stories that these guys were tricked into fighting on Britain's side because they're like, okay, we are like colonial subjects. Why do you want us to fight? It's like, oh, you'll be given land, you'll be given so on and so forth. So it was pretty cool to see that, to be honest. Like a different angle to a very respected story on African liberation. These are guys with statues and airports named after them. And he's like, yeah, it's just some dude.
This didn't want anything to do with him. Yeah.
So do you wanna talk about the other side of this like angle when we spoke to the freedom fighter?
Oh yeah, right. So the freedom fighter that was a little bit easier to set up because he's my great grandfather and Honorable Mbeki Ngalande. He so I think like when I was younger, I guess just a backstory, like it was just like my mom used to tell me stories about him like more. And so because like like I always used to wonder because like when we go to visit him with my relative, like people still approach him with that like, oh, honorable this, but like to me it's just like I wasn't there during these things, so like I just kind of look at it. But then when my mom started explaining like the stories, I was like, yo, this guy knows like just way too much, and like it would suck for him to go with all that like history and all that knowledge and stuff. So I thought it would be wise to also interview him. And I think Jenge, I think you enjoyed this one thoroughly.
Yeah,
If
because
I can
like
say, yeah.
this is more like post-colonial Africa. I mean, we asked him, the same problem came again with this freedom fighter. Asking the question.
I think this one was a different problem in the sense that with the with the soldier,
yeah,
you had to ask him to get the answer to your specific question because he was talking about something completely different. With this one, he wanted to give you from Genesis. You wanted to start with Genesis and say like in the beginning was the one, and then bring you to the end. So like that was a different problem in that sense. But you can go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was very like it was very. I think he was so ready to give us a lot of information, and we also had time issues because the battery died for one of the cameras. So so it was very hard to, because when people watch these documentaries, they already have an idea of what this freedom fighter is going to say, and they want to hear about certain things. Like, okay, the Biafra War, what did you do? Where was the blood? Did you see people getting but like he has his own analysis because he was there, and you find them, you kind of drift away. And you kind of like, it gets a bit boring, and then all of a sudden he just drops a bomb. It's like, oh yeah, I saw a white guy take our land when I was in the village. When it's like, oh, okay, you're talking about this like regular old man stuff, and then all of a sudden you just drop a bomb there. And then even on the stuff like how like you're speaking to other diplomats and how he knew that Nkrumah was going to be overthrown. As Zambia's ambassador to Ghana, they're like, yo, by the way, just Nkrumah is going to be overthrown. So yeah, have fun. And I was like, oh, okay. And yes, so to him, when interviewing him, it was very interesting because he was so willing to say it, and he was still passionate. Like it happened yesterday. He was still very especially when he talked about the negotiations for Zambian independence, the colonial negotiations, and he was like, yeah, these white guys said that, what did he say? They were like, oh, yesterday they were doubting black people's ability to form government. They're like, oh, yesterday these guys were climbing trees, and now they want to be in government.
Yeah.
And he said it with like his voice. You could see the heartbreak in in the tone of his voice. And you could tell that you're still passionate about. Like that's like something you never forget. You die with that memory. So yeah, you can tell that these guys were passionate people. Like I don't see politicians like that these days. Like you could tell that there was,
sure. I mean,
it was like a matter of the heart. It wasn't like,
I think he went to jail twice, right?
Yeah, he went to jail twice. And
Yeah.
So to me it was, and the guy is, he's an old, I mean, age-wise, I mean, as I'm sure he's young in spirit, but like he's an old
His
guy.
His memory is better than mine, though, I have to say.
Yeah,
like he remembered the specific days when he was submitting documents, because I remember there were times when he would correct himself and I was like, oh no, it wasn't a Friday, it was a Monday. And you're like, bro, what? Like how are you able to remember that? And like for me, I think the other interesting thing was just, I don't know what it is, but it's just so fascinating to me that like you're talking to someone who literally met Kwame Nkrumah, who met all these figures that you like watch on TV or like in documentaries. It's just something like deep about that. That was like really interesting to me,
Yeah. And he had the pictures to show for it as well.
True. Did
you guys add those into the documentary?
A few of them are there. So. Like when the documentary starts.
Yeah,
you can see the pictures of him, like when he was doing a guard of honor he was even ambassador to Egypt or something, right? So he's Saudi Arabia, yeah. So how about you, Musa? What did you sort of like expect from a freedom fighter, and like what surprised you?
To be fair, what surprised me the most was probably the pictures. Just to see the pictures and sort of have a visual evidence of all he was talking about. That was actually really interesting. It was like there's so many people that he met. I mean, Kwame Nkrumah. We speak about Kwame Nkrumah so much these days. Till this day. So I mean, yeah, that was very exciting.
Yeah, like I always wonder, like, because I mean, I guess maybe the future generations will look at our generation and say, oh, there was lots of crazy stuff going on. But like, I always wonder, like, if I was living in the 70s and I was like awake, like politically awake, like, would I do something crazy? Would I like, or would I just be like nonchalant and just be like chilling with the
crazy, like what?
I don't know, like join, because those days, like, I don't know, maybe it's just because we're not there. And like even like when I asked like my my parents and all the people, older generations, they're like, yeah, no, I went to uni, I went to the club, everything was fine, everything was like, oh, but the refugees from Uganda, the refugees from Congo, Mobutu was president at that time, what the hell? Idi Amin was president, what the hell? So to me, it's like, these guys are crazy people, or did they only know this after they were there? Like, it's always about like, okay, if I was there, even when you talk about like Germans during the Nazi time, it's like, okay, if I was there and I was just like a random white German guy, would I just be like, yeah, I mean, I had a Jewish friend and now they're not there? Or would I like stand up and be like inquisitor and like, I don't know. To me, it's insane, especially when you have someone like that who was a diplomat and who has seen these people, who have like literally, you open your history books and you see this guy's name and he knew him. And the guy knew him as well. It's crazy. It's very crazy to me. So yeah, that was what was just like, I had to like keep on telling myself, like, wait, hold on. This guy is not just some old uncle in the bar, like he was there. He was actually there. So there's uncles who claim to be at everything, but I'm not mentioning names. But So anyway, that's a nice sort of way to close it down. Africa Freedom Day, a point of reflection that these were people that like gave their all, and some as Pvt Moboola in his last years, who was suffering from PTSD at age 99 on an issue that happened when he was in his 20s. Yeah, so these are huge sacrifices for life that they have done. So I think that's, even though it's quite, the picture of Africa is not the most promising, but I think there's the sacrifice of these guys is very inspiring. Yeah.
Sure.
So over to you, Nathan.
No, it ended it quite well. So yeah, no, thanks for organizing this, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me, guys. And thanks for running us down memory lane on some work we did in the past.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, no, I've really enjoyed this conversation. We should definitely do this again. So those who are listening, please watch out. Not promising anything, but yeah, definitely want to do another project like this, more of these, because it's definitely someone out there is definitely appreciating this. Yeah.
I am an African.